It's the Raymond Simms Show on the Coliseum Sports Network.
Raymond Simms Show here on the Coliseum Sports Network. It's the beginning of another week. Glad that you decided to use me to get you through the day. If you're on the East Coast and you're just waiting for lunch to start, or if you're on the West Coast and you're just getting in, glad that you're listening today. Of course, as with any weekend, a lot going on. So we'll get to a number of topics. I'm pretty much doing the rundown straight off the iPhone, so we'll see where this takes us on this on the beginning of November. It's the first show of November, so that's exciting. I hope you enjoyed your Halloween. I did. For those of you who listened to the Friday show, you know I was in the middle of a dilemma. One, I was coming off of a cold. I was fighting that. Valiantly fought that off, and I'll be getting my medal soon. But also, I eventually made up my mind on what costume I was going to wear. And if in your Raymond Simms Show Halloween costume poll you got a draft pick, then you won, and you won handsomely. And I hope that you spent that $2 that you got on a very tasty McChicken. Congratulations to you. Went out as a draft pick. What I did, it was after the show, I went out to the mall, and I bought a fitted cap. And I figured that would serve two purposes. One, I would have a costume, and two, I would have a very nice fitted cap after the fact. So everybody wins. And I went ahead and bought a Charlotte Hornets cap. I wanted a more random team. Your Utah Jazz, your Phoenix Suns. I think the Orlando Magic would have been nice too. You know, just something that you wouldn't expect a person walking around Chicago would expect to have. That's what I wanted to aim at. But at the mall that I went to, the Lids was very limited on their NBA selection, but you kind of can't blame them. They had a whole wall of NBA hats that they had to sell off because the baseball season is over. And they actually had a lot of inventory coming in that day. It was hats everywhere. It was chaos. It was anarchy. It was dogs without horses. But I went ahead. There was some nice selection there, and I went ahead and got a Hornets hat. So now I have a Hornets hat, and I can wear that whenever I so please. But on Halloween, I had the hat. I matched it with the suit. I got my purple tie and handkerchief that I had left over from when I would do Western-related broadcasting events because our school's colors were purple. Wore that, and boom, I'm a Hornets draft pick. Nondescript Hornets draft pick because the only one's Noah Vonleh, and I don't want my name associated with him until we see how he pans out. And of course, I can't be Kemba because he was drafted by the Bobcats. But I was just a draft pick. I was actually at a bar, the bar we were leaving out of that night because we went to Wrigleyville, the world famous Wrigleyville, and we were leaving out, and there was a group of guys that noticed what I had on, and they were like, "Hey, you a draft pick? You made it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And one of them was like, "Oh, you were Kobe, huh?" And I turned like, No, I'm Kemba." And I got out the door and took 3 steps and was like, "I get it. I get what he meant." Because of course Kobe Bryant was drafted by the Hornets, but he was traded to the Lakers. I think it was on draft day, or if it was a couple of days from it. And I wish I could have ran back in there and said, "Wait, I know what you mean," but it was too late, and you gotta just let things like that go. But other than that, my costume got positive reviews, not rave. People weren't going crazy. People weren't crying at the originality of it and its sheer amazingness, and neither was I. But it served its purpose. It did what it had to do, and my mind's already reeling, is already in the plans of figuring out what to do next year so that I don't have to rush out to Lids on Halloween and find another fitted cap. What was your Halloween like? Tell me about it. You can chat with me on Spreaker. I have never used the chat feature directly, and I'll have to check on it at a later time to figure out just how you can access the Spreaker chat, but I'm pretty sure that if you go to my show page, you'll be able to see it right there. You can leave your comments and your 2 cents. I'd love to see it. Love to see what you have for Halloween. There were a lot of clever costumes out there that I saw online and in person just going out on the night. So let me know what you had on. Also, you can talk to me on Twitter at Simms Coliseum. So the Spreaker chat and Twitter, those are pretty much the best two ways to talk to me. But if you're a social media nut, you can also check me out on Facebook, Simms Coliseum, and on Tumblr, Simms Coliseum. If you're one of the young folks that's into that whole Tumblr thing, the whole Tumblr without the E, you can find me there at Simms Coliseum pretty easily. Of course, we're going to be talking NFL football. I'm not going to do the whole 2-minute drill or the blitz or whatever names TV networks use for the NFL recaps. I'm not going to do that, but I am going to cover a lot of the big sports, or a lot of the big games that happened, rather, including Ben Roethlisberger and his continuation of being awesome, the Arizona Cardinals and their continuation of shocking the NFC West as well as the rest of the football world. Mark Sanchez actually doing a thing, because I thought he was not in the league. I thought he wasn't playing at all, but he fills in for Nick Foles and does it admirably. We'll talk about that as well. Also, a couple of college games that were on my mind from Saturday, and then Chicago stuff, because I live in Chicago, and some of the stuff that's happening in Chicago sports is making me sad. But that'll be more after the break. This is the Raymond Simms Show on the Coliseum Sports Network. Raymond Simms Show on the Coliseum Sports Network. Start a little late, but I'm ready to go here. You can chat with me, Spreaker.com. Just sent out the link on my Twitter page at Simms Coliseum. So if you don't know how to get here, it's kind of weird that you have gotten here but don't know how. But you can communicate with me through Twitter and Spreaker. So hopefully you get in on that. I want to know what you wore for Halloween so that I can steal your idea, claim it as my own next year. I kid, but I do. I do want to hear about all of the different clever ideas. If you even did anything, you might not have. For all I know, you probably hate Halloween and you decided to watch Netflix, or you decided to just follow the sports that was happening on Friday night. One of the things that happened on Friday night, the Bulls played. Well, actually, on Friday, the Bulls played the Cavaliers, and they lost in overtime to the Cavaliers. And they had to, once again, as they had done for 2 seasons, figure out how to get through the game without their star, Derrick Rose. Halfway through, he had sprained his ankle, which thank goodness that's all it is compared to what he was injured with before, but still a very frustrating, unfortunate injury for Derrick Rose. He was sat out of the Minnesota game, which the Bulls did win by 1, and he is questionable to return for tomorrow's game against Orlando, but they have one more game to determine that. That Cleveland-Chicago game, again on Friday, 114-108 win by the Cavaliers. They were bouncing back from a loss to the Knicks of all teams. So you knew that they were going to come into Chicago against a division rival and play them very tough. And that's exactly what they did. LeBron James reeling from the 17 points and 8 rebounds, or the 17 points and 8 turnovers that he had suffered from. He bounces back. He gets 36 points, 8 rebounds, and he comes out with only 3 turnovers compared to the 8 that he had. And that really is something that saying LeBron had a bad game, he still gets 17 points. Like on his worst days, he's still in double digits and pushing towards 20. But the turnovers were definitely a big thing in that New York game. He bounced back from that. He even got 4 assists out of the deal. He got 4 steals and 1 block. So it was a very impressive game for LeBron. You kind of expect that. And with Derrick Rose going out, he only played 25 minutes and scored 20 points. He had 4 rebounds and 4 assists as, the team's point guard, but also their leading scorer. So he created a lot of shots for himself. Outside of the injury, I think Derrick Rose looked very good. He's been trying to get his explosiveness back. That's kind of been the key word when talking about Derrick Rose and his return is explosiveness, and how important that is for his game. I was always of the belief that when he came back, he would not have it and that he would have to adjust his game, maybe get more of a jump shot. That doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, he has included more range to his game, but at the same time, he hasn't necessarily needed to change anything in particular. Maybe his health, the strength of his legs, he might want to change that, but I think that's kind of out of his control outside of extensive rehab. So Cleveland able to bounce back from the win against New York. Chicago ends up without their star. They go to Minnesota. How do they survive that? And well, honestly, they barely did. They almost lost to Minnesota after doing so well early on. They were up by as much as 13 on Minnesota heading into the half. And then all of a sudden, Minnesota started coming back. And you start getting people like Kevin Martin, who had an awful year that one year in Oklahoma City, which I won't let him live down, at least not while he's playing Mr. Clutch against my favorite team. But Kevin Martin, he shows out, especially in the latter stages of the game. He almost won the game for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He finished the game with 33 points. He hit all 11 of his free throws. That's probably the most amazing stat. 2 stats out of that. Remember, kids, always hit your free throws, as Kevin Martin would show you with his quick release. But he comes out with 33 points, and he hits a very crucial shot towards the end of the game that put Minnesota up 105-104. What happened in the end, however, was Jimmy Butler was attempting to attack the basket. He slipped and almost lost the ball, almost traveled. But in the end, he was able to put up a shot, and he was fouled by the rookie, Andrew Wiggins. Kind of a welcome to the league type of moment there for Andrew Wiggins, who's probably going to still move on to do big things in this league, but just a misstep for him. And it was with 0.2 seconds remaining, and you really need 0.3 to get anything done. All Jimmy Butler has to do is hit his free throws, and with the cynicism I have with my Chicago teams in general, I thought he was going to miss them both, but he didn't. He made both. 106-105, not enough time to get anything off for the Minnesota Timberwolves, so they end up falling by 1. And last year, those close losses were a real problem for Minnesota and probably could have made a big difference between them being a playoff team and where they ended up on the outside looking in. So just another close loss for Minnesota. We'll see with this new cast without Kevin Love if they can improve on that. But on this first test, they did not pass with flying colors. Moving forward, I am petrified because I'm worried that this is going to be waiting on Derek year 3. Though, quite honestly, if Derek gets hurt again for an extended amount of time, like for the rest of the season, there probably won't be much waiting. Not to mix sports metaphors, but it's kind of a 3 strikes and you're out sort of deal. The pain hurt the first year. Then he came back. He struggled in those first 10 games last season, went out for the rest of the year, and it hurts worse, but you figure he'll come back around. There's a lot of optimism about this third time being the charm, to mix metaphors again. Third time being the charm, you are ready for a championship run, and he sprains his ankle, and it's something minor, but in this city, after what has happened, you think that it's going to be a lot worse. Like, if he stubs his toe, you think he's going to be out for 5 months, because that's kind of been what has happened with the homegrown, hometown star Derrick Rose. So this third time around, it's only an ankle sprain, so he could be back the next game or the game after that, but you're still very suspicious because it's still something wrong with his legs. And you just have to, well, all you can really do is wait and see. It's very early in the season. The Bulls are still 2-1 after that loss, and the only loss was to a division rival with the best player in the game. But it's very tight in the chest right now, at least for me. But I'm pretty sure I speak for a sizable number of Chicago sports fans. I've also convinced myself that if this team were to stay just mostly healthy, let's say on average the team is like at 90% health for all 82 games, or in this case the remaining 79 games of the season, and then the rest of the playoffs, I'm pretty sure that the Bulls will win the championship. But that's the thing. That's the cynicism that comes with any sports fan in the Midwest or the East. You don't think they'll stay healthy. You think something bad will happen, kind of in a Murphy's Law sort of deal. I was actually thinking about that earlier today, about Murphy's Law and how cruddy of a law it is, because it says anything that can go wrong will go wrong. But in that case, there'd be a lot more accidents and incidents happening in the world if anything that can go wrong actually absolutely will. But then I thought about it in terms of Chicago sportsdom, what has been happening, and maybe Murphy's Law makes just a little bit more sense than I thought. And I haven't even gotten into the Bears. I will right after the break. You're listening to the Raymond Simms Show on the Coliseum Sports Network. Simms Show on the Coliseum Sports Network. Just got done talking about the Bulls, kind of veered into that. I'm going to be talking football later on in the show, and that includes the Chargers getting the beat 'em down from the Miami Dolphins. The Arizona Cardinals just continuing on their pace as the best team in the NFC and in the NFC West. Kind of not who you expected, but you kind of expect now when you really think about it. You also have the Broncos and the Patriots, which you would think would be the big headline, and I'm sure it is on a lot of shows moving forward, or today on a lot of the sports shows, because it was Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. I kind of tuned out on it, to be quite honest with you. And then on Sunday night, it was Ravens and Steelers. We'll get to all of that. That is coming. But I teased the Chicago Bears and talking about them on their bye week. And who am I to not deliver on a tease, even though I did that last week, I think. I said I was going to talk about Ben Roethlisberger's great game against the Colts, and I never got around to that. And it's kind of a problem when you don't have a rundown, at least not back then. I got one now, and it says Bears. So I'll talk about them now. I think I've fallen into cynical Chicago sports fan mode because I'm currently wearing my knit hat for the White Sox, and that just breeds cynicism for your sports team. I had to go out here for just before the show, and I came back, and I've been wearing this hat the whole time. It's stylish though, so I'm not taking it off. So you're just gonna get cynical Ray today, but I'm sure a lot of you can relate with your sports teams and their fandoms, because it seems in sports lately it's been a lot clearer who the haves and the have-nots are in sports. Like in the NBA, I can point out which teams are going to be great and which teams are going to struggle mightily over the course of the season. Like, you just know when certain players go out. In the NFL, now that there's kind of been, the shuffling has already been moved out of the way as far as like the 1-1 teams and some of the undefeated teams, it's pretty clear who the good teams are and who are the bad teams. It just seems like now more than ever, you know who's good and you know who's bad. So the fans of the teams that know they are bad, you can join me in this sweet, sweet cynicism. The Bears on a bye week come off of a demoralizing loss in New England, 51-27 to the Patriots. I guess maybe they shouldn't feel so bad considering what happened to Peyton Manning and the Broncos, if you want to use the transitive property. I mean, if it happens to the Broncos, then maybe it's not so bad that it happened to the Bears. But still, it's a very tough loss. Apparently, there's a lot of infighting. There's quite a few players that don't believe in the coach. This is all according to Jason La Canfora, who's at CBS. I could have sworn he was somewhere else, like an NFL network, but he's at CBS now doing NFL stuff. And he was talking about all the issues in the locker room for the Bears and, just infighting and questioning leadership and authority. Stuff that tends to happen with a losing team that was expected to be good and expected themselves to be good. Stuff like that. It happens everywhere, quite honestly. So it's not that shocking. You'd never want that to happen to your team. And I will say that in some cases when it has been other teams, I've kind of been like, fight. So that team like collapses like over the course of the season, and you can just watch them like crash and burn. Guess I'm going to have to watch that from the front row seats here in Chicago. Like, I don't want it to happen to my team, but at the same time, I already do it to other people. So why not? why I have to be fair. I just pride myself on being objective. So if I'm going to laugh at everyone else, I got to laugh at this team because it is a mess. On paper, this team looked absolutely wonderful as far as having football minds in the front office. I think Phil Emery is still a smart guy, the current general manager. I think that he knows what he wants in the team, and he has picked people for the team in accordance with what he wants for the roster, and I appreciate that. I enjoy the fact that he does that for a change, as opposed to Jerry Angelo, who also the previous general manager who knew what he wanted, but kind of got caught up on the wrong things. Like he got too caught up on like things like intangibles or athletic prowess, as opposed to actual useful football skills like blocking and tackling and catching. And that led to a lot of fun roster lineups when you couple it with a defensive-minded coach. But now things have turned around, and you get an offensive-minded coach who all of a sudden can't control his offense because the offense is still very bad, even though it has all the tools to be very good. So it's a mess. It is, and it's going to be very hard for it to become undone in a fast enough amount of time for my liking. I'll say that. I was looking for another word, but that's the one I'll go with here. In a good enough amount of time, this will not be less of a mess. And the reason is because a lot of players are locked into extended contracts. I'm pretty sure that the ownership might have more belief in the current general manager and the coach than the rest of the general paying public does. So while it's bad now, it could get a lot worse, or I can turn it around and be optimistic, and maybe there could be hope for some of the fans of some of you fans of other struggling teams. Maybe they'll hit rock bottom and they'll realize, hey, we can't keep fighting like this. We need to band together and be a great team. We need to fight and get as many wins as possible. And then it's one of those like Disney movie sort of things where the team goes on a winning streak and then they get to like the final game of the season that gets them into the playoffs, and then they win that. And then they all celebrate, and then you get the end credits where they tell you where the person is now, and then it'll be credits. So that's how I'm expecting the rest of the Bears season to go, or hoping it does. That's not how I expect it to go. Their next game off of the bye week, I believe, is against Minnesota, which should be a pick-me-up. It is not. It's at Green Bay. That's not going to be a pick-me-up. The last time that the Packers and the Bears faced off, it was a 38-17 win for the Pack in Chicago. This time, it's going to be on Sunday night for all to see in Green Bay. So not a lot of optimism coming into Green Bay week, which is what this is now. I think they get the day off today, but they start practice like tomorrow, I believe. And then the week after that, they get Minnesota and Tampa. So maybe there will be some optimism there, but not immediately coming off the bye week. This team is in bad shape, and I felt the need to tell you about that from inside of the city that follows this team so heavily and is so highly displeased with them. So keep that in mind, and hopefully your team is doing a lot better. I know one team that's doing very well is the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are now 6-3, coming off of a 43-23 trouncing of the rival Baltimore Ravens. What is usually a very tough matchup in the AFC North turns out to just be the equivalent of a college football game. And it's really been ridiculous, the video game numbers that the Steelers offense has put up. Like, they put up 51 last week, and it's like, who does that? And now they put up 43 this week. They're really out here like a Penn State in their prime, beating up on Maryland. It's very ridiculous. At least this week, that's what it was. Last week, it was Penn State in their prime beating up on Indiana. Good old-fashioned Big 12 beat them down. But it's really been impressive what Ben Roethlisberger, that he's definitely been the onus of this huge winning streak for the Steelers, how they've been winning big as of late. That's 12 combined touchdowns for Ben Roethlisberger over the last 2 weeks on this 3-game winning streak. Of course, he helped the team win big against Houston, 30-23. But from there, he had 6 TDs against Indianapolis. He has 6 here against Baltimore, and he has just looked ridiculous in the process. Also, Antonio Brown has probably been one of the best receivers in the game this season. He finished with 11 receptions on 144 yards and 1 touchdown. And if you were like me and you felt the brunt of that because your opponent has Antonio Brown in their fantasy league, I feel for you. I am your shoulder to cry on, and it's going to get better. It's going to be okay. Just not this week, because I'm pretty sure you probably lost because of that Antonio Brown performance, because I probably did. So just hang in there. It's going to be okay. But opponents of the Steelers are probably not going to be okay, because the next opponent is the New York Jets, followed by the Tennessee Titans. So all of this greatness that we're seeing right now from Ben Roethlisberger, I feel like it's going to keep its steam until their bye week, which is week 12. So there's going to be more touchdown passes to go around in Pittsburgh. And it's really amazing that Roethlisberger has been able to pull this off, but I guess all the great quarterbacks are able to do this, or all the really good quarterbacks are able to do this, where they do a lot with less. You would think that when Pittsburgh lost Mike Wallace, that they would take an enormous hit in the receiving corps, and they did. But Roethlisberger has been able to spread the ball around, relatively spread it around. Once I give you the numbers here, spread it around to different receivers and make them the ones to be the playmakers instead of just relying on one player. I mean, let's be clear. Antonio Brown is, by and large, the number one guy in Pittsburgh. So maybe he's not spreading the ball around like, say, a Drew Brees has done for years, where he throws one pass to Marcus Colston, one pass to Jimmy Graham. He'll throw one screen pass over here to Darren Sproles, and he'll throw a pass over here, and he'll throw one out to Devery Henderson. Is he still in the league? I don't remember where Devery Henderson, if he's still in the league. I haven't caught up on a lot of Saints. But, Drew Brees has done a much better job of actually spreading out the ball evenly to all of his receivers because all of them are capable of catching it. In this case, Ben Roethlisberger has a plan A and everyone else is plan B, and both plans are working on all cylinders. So Antonio Brown has just been out of his mind all year, and you wouldn't expect that, really. You thought he would be serviceable. You didn't think he'd be this good. And then you have guys like Marcus Wheaton and Martavis Bryant, who really came through yesterday. Marcus Wheaton, he got 2 catches, but one of them ended up in a touchdown. And then you have Martavis Bryant, who gets only 3 catches, and 2 of those catches are touchdowns. So you get the receivers stepping up when they needed to. And it's really amazing because this team, especially last year, was struggling a lot. And I will say that at least on the national stage, not a lot of people, and I respect this, on the national stage, not a lot of people were calling for Mike Tomlin's job. And why would you? He would get you to run through a wall if he got you the right speech. He's a very motivational person. You buy what he's selling you when he's coaching you, and that's very understandable. Why out here in the rest of the world, not a lot of people were thinking that Mike Tomlin was on the hot seat. Now, I can't account for Pittsburgh sports radio. I listen to a lot of different sports radio stations around the country, in Los Angeles, sometimes in New York. Just give different cities different listens just to see what they're all talking about in their respective cities. But I don't frequent Pittsburgh enough, as I probably should. I've heard good things about a number of their hosts, but I can't account for them. I'm pretty sure that there were a decent amount of callers calling into those shows wanting Mike Tomlin on the first train out of town. But out here, we still believed in Mike, and he's been able to do what he has to do every week in terms of game planning to help this team play as well as they have. And now it's starting to show through in the players as the Pittsburgh Steelers are really starting to turn it around. And if they can continue on this torrid pace, maybe not win every game, but, just playing well, just that one prerequisite of just playing as well as possible, they can probably run off with the AFC North. They are currently a game behind Cincinnati because Cincinnati has the better winning percentage since that tie throws out that one game. But otherwise, if Cincinnati happens to falter, and I'm sure a lot of more cynical people think they will, Pittsburgh is right there to step up and take over the AFC North and maybe make a very long run. So, hey, I delivered on 2 promises. I teased the Bears, talked about them, and then I kept talking about I was going to bring up other NFL stories, and that's exactly what I did. 43-23, Steelers getting the win. We'll talk more football right after this break. You're listening to the Raymond Simms Show on the Coliseum Sports Network. Raymond Simms Show on the Coliseum Sports Network. Whole lot of football. Hashtag so much football. I usually use that for basketball. I say like so much hoops. So I'll probably be saying that a lot once college basketball season starts up. Which, by the way, might as well bring that up now. On November 13th, be sure to tune into the Raymond Simms Show on Spreaker.com and replayed on YouTube at the Coliseum Sports Network for the TRSS College Basketball Preview Edition. Just like I did with the NBA, I will not go by conference. And heavens, I couldn't do that in 2 hours on college basketball, go by each conference. But I will bring up a lot of the stories that I'm interested in, a lot of the schools that I'm interested in. I have a lot of gripes with college athletics, but still, up until its inevitable collapse, I'm going to love me some college basketball. So I'm excited about that, just like I was excited about the NBA. So November 13th, 2014, mark it on your calendars, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker.com and the Coliseum Sports Network on YouTube. Just got done tipping the iceberg on some football talk. As I said, so much football happening, and I'm going to not go through all of the games, but I'm going to give an extensive recap on a number of the other games that happened on Sunday. The main one coming into the weekend that I thought that I would be talking the most about on Monday was the Broncos and the Patriots in New England, but I'm not. I kind of tuned out on it. You know, I was kind of I actually watched the 6 Central airing of The Simpsons, which is a rerun. I chose to watch that and take a nap before it over watching the rest of the Broncos Patriots, because it also, like a lot of football seems to be these days, in beat 'em down mode. But the Patriots, after having it snow in Foxborough that morning, but the grounds crew do an amazing job of cleaning that up for the game. The Patriots now 5-0 at home, leading them to a 7-2 record. And they beat up on the Broncos 43-21. I don't know if I had set the score, so there you go. And it was really spurred by a huge second quarter by the New England Patriots to kind of set the Patriots away from the rest of the pack. At first, after one quarter, it was only 7-3. That 7 coming from a Ronnie Hillman touchdown for Denver to make it 7-3. I felt the brunt of that too. Ronnie Hillman was on my opponent's fantasy team as well. So yeah, rough day for me there, starting from the afternoon heading into the evening. I thought going into those late afternoon games, I thought I had the lead. Did not. But from that 7-3 lead, Denver fell apart, and New England was able to capitalize on it. First, it started with a field goal. Then it was your standard Tom Brady pass. And then Julian Edelman gets a punt return, takes that home for a touchdown. And then Tom Brady able to get something off to Shane Vereen. Which, let me say this. I'm sure I've heard this before and didn't listen when I was drafting this year. But don't pick the Patriots in fantasy. Because Shane Vereen, after Stephen Ridley's injury, looked to be the number one guy in terms of getting the workload and getting the carries in the New England running game. But then Bill Belichick comes along and he just brings in Jonas Gray, because why not? And then Jonas Gray goes out there and does a similar job to Shane Vereen in terms of production. And so, yeah, Bill Belichick is going to platoon the running game, it seems. And that's bad news for any fantasy player. It happens all the time in the NFL, but the main example for me that comes to mind is the Carolina Panthers when they had D'Angelo Williams and they had Jonathan Stewart, and they split those carries there. Nobody wins, and I don't think the Panthers won either. So, yeah, it doesn't really work for anybody. The Patriots win, though, and Tom Brady was as great as he usually is. 33 for 53, 333 yards, 4 touchdowns. If you don't like Tom Brady and you need to use something against him, he did throw an interception once. Peyton Manning, on the other hand, he did okay, but okay doesn't work in a game between Manning and Brady. So Manning goes 34-57, 438 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So that's another point that you can use against Peyton Manning if you don't like him. I really thought that this game would be just another referendum on who's better, who's best. I thought it was going to go down to the wire, back and forth. I mean, just because it was snowing in New England, it's not like the Broncos aren't used to it. Peyton Manning has been in Denver for a few years now. He's used to it. I know a lot of people were saying that he wouldn't be able to adjust to Denver because he played in a dome for most of his career. But he should be fine now, but he wasn't. And so the Broncos the Broncos fall behind and they end up losing the game and New England pulls away. I think also you can you can't but you have to look to the Broncos defense for not containing Tom Brady. I know if you're listening and you live in New England, you think that Tom can do no wrong, but let it be known he can be stopped. The Kansas City Chiefs proved that earlier this season. And that was a funny time. I'm glad I didn't have a show then because I don't know what I would have said about that Monday night loss that the Patriots had to the Chiefs. I don't know if I would have jumped on the Patriots are in trouble bandwagon. Or maybe I would have. I'm not sure. Like, I would have made an opinion about it. I might have said that the Patriots need to watch out. And I probably would have said moving forward like 15 times about watching out and seeing what happens moving forward because this team has shown that they can overcome adversity. You can't overcome diversity. Don't overcome it. Embrace it. Overcoming adversity. And that's exactly what they did. That was a very embarrassing loss that the New England Patriots took to Kansas City on Monday night back in late September. And ever since then, they have turned it around. They have delivered on their product. They've played above their talent, quite honestly, because just like it used to be when the Patriots were winning all of those Super Bowls, Tom Brady was great, and you could really interchange all of the other players. But Julian Edelman, in this case, he really came through, even though on most teams he probably wouldn't be utilized the way that New England uses them. Brandon LaFell was like a number 2 guy in Carolina. He comes in, and he's really been a very competent receiver. And then you get guys like Shane Vereen, who, while he's platooning in the running game, the reason that he even still comes out is because he's a good pass catcher out of the backfield. So a lot of useful players, but the centerpiece of the team and the figurehead of the team, that's Brady and Belichick respectively, are still the same. And it's really been amazing to watch this team do so well after coming off of such a rough, embarrassing loss. But I would be remiss to discuss the Patriots and not talk about Rob Gronkowski. Now, he's supposed to be one half of a dangerous tight end duo, where you know what happened to the other guy, Aaron Hernandez, and so now it's Gronk's team in terms of being a tight end. And Gronkowski's just really been on a tear as well. In the Denver game, he went 9 receptions for 105 yards and a touchdown, which was about identical to his game against Chicago. 9 receptions, 149 yards, 3 touchdowns. So I guess you could say that he's fallen off. That's the conclusion you can get because he only had 1 touchdown instead of 3. But no, Gronkowski has been very great. He's been looked at as the X factor for the Patriots all season. And what is he doing? He's out there X factoring all over the field. He's been blocking very well for Tom, and he's getting out there and he's catching passes and using his big body to take on these defensive backs and able to get the big catches and get into the end zone a lot for Tom Brady. So this team seems to be running on all, or if not all, then most cylinders. As it has been in recent years, it's been New England's division to lose, and it doesn't look like they're going to relinquish the crown anytime soon. I mean, the Dolphins have played very well, and the Bills are still 5-3 as well, but you're not really expecting them to make a big push as long as New England is performing the way that they are, which is the way that we expect. They get to rest on the bye week, and then they take on Indianapolis on Sunday night on the 16th. That will be an interesting game, but then again, I said that this game would be interesting, so we'll see how that'll go. Well, there's the phrase, moving forward. I know that it's like midday and it's early in the day on the West Coast, so maybe this isn't a good idea, but I'll throw it out here. You should have a drinking game for every time I say moving forward. I think that would be a lot of fun. I'm sure you'll be a hoot at work if you were to do that, at work. Have a drinking game at work. That wouldn't be weird at all. More football on the other side of this very quick break. You're listening to the Raymond Simms Show on the Coliseum Sports Network and Spreaker.com. Simms Show here on the Coliseum Sports Network. Streaming live at Spreaker.com. Told you it'd be a quick break, not too long. Just before the top of the hour here, just talking about what's coming up next. A few more games I want to get off my chest. The Eagles taking on the Houston Texans, getting the win with Mark Sanchez. That's really surprising me, and I'm probably going to just go on for like 5 whole minutes talking about how surprised I am that he's still in the league. The Chargers and the Dolphins. That was an interesting game. That was a rough game there for the Chargers, and they were doing so well too over the past couple of weeks. But nope, the Dolphins come in. They seem to be riding high right now. And then the last game I'll cover in terms of football would be the Cardinals and Cowboys, but that's on the other side here. Also, some NBA stuff. I said I was going to do college. I'm not as certain about that anymore. Sometimes you just don't know in life. So be sure to stick around for that. But in the meantime, take another break here, and then we'll get into some more football. It's the Raymond Simms Show on the Coliseum Sports Network. back on the Raymond Simms Show, hour 2 here. See how far this hour takes us. It might actually be half an hour, but all the same, I'm glad that you're listening here live on Spreaker.com. If you missed anything, don't cry. Dry those eyes, because it will be archived almost immediately here on Spreaker, but then also you can go over to the Coliseum Sports Network on YouTube. That's youtube.com/user/Coliseum Sportsnet, and you can check out all of the fun stuff that we talked about here on November 3rd, 2014, here on the Raymond Simms Show. It'll probably just have the name of my show and the date, and then in parentheses by Spreaker.com. So it's all there. You'll know where it's at. It's probably going to be the latest video. I think that's wonderful about Spreaker.com, that it can send out different like notifications that my show is on, and it's archived, and then it goes over to YouTube. It's just a wonderful experience for me, and I appreciate it very much from this company. So Spreaker.com, they did not pay me for that advertisement there. That's just love, man. That's from the heart. I talked a lot of football, and I'm not done yet. Got 3 more games on my docket here. I'm sure that there were many other entertaining games in the NFL. I'm sure many of you want to hear my breakdown of the Browns' 22-17 win over Tampa, or you want to hear all about the 24-10 win by the Chiefs over the Jets, or you're probably wondering what was the key to the 29-26 victory for the Minnesota Vikings over Washington. But no, I'm not. I want to leave you guessing. And I'm going to talk about other games, such as the Eagles winning in Houston 31-21. And that was at the hands of Nick Foles, who was great on his first 13 passes, 10 of 13, 124 yards. He had a touchdown, he had an interception, and he got sacked twice. Yikes. But in terms of passing efficiency, not bad at all. And then he had a broken clavicle. And so then the Eagles are up a creek, and it's like, what are they going to do? Well, I know what I do when I'm in sticky situations and I need somebody to call on. I call on quarterback Mark Sanchez, who I alluded to on Twitter and on this show multiple times, teasing up to this very moment. I did not know he was still in the league. And that's kind of partly because you don't think about the backup QBs, because you hope that the QBs that are in place, the starters, will be there through the whole season. Like here in Chicago, I don't quite remember who the backup guy is in Chicago behind Jay Cutler, and hopefully I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to guess and say Jordan Palmer, and I'm going to look it up because it's going to bother me if I don't. But otherwise, you don't think about the backup QB because you hope they never come around. But come around does Mark Sanchez, and he does very good for himself as well. 15 of 22, 202 yards, 2 TDs, and in the name of symmetry, he also throws 2 interceptions and gets sacked twice, but he still leads the Houston Texans to the win. And actually, considering that the Texans were able to reel off 4 sacks and 3 interceptions, quite the testament to the Houston defense. They just weren't able to finish the job there, as they give up the go-ahead touchdown to Mark Sanchez to Jeremy Maclin there at the end of the game with 3:50 left to give them the 31-21 lead. So it happens. The Texans defense just couldn't hold on late in the game, and then the Texans offense with Ryan Fitzpatrick behind the helm just couldn't get it in, just couldn't get that go-ahead touchdown that they needed to take the lead. They were behind 3 when Ryan Fitzpatrick was able to throw a touchdown pass to DeAndre Hopkins pretty early on there in the fourth quarter, but they just couldn't get that game-winning drive assembled, and the Eagles were able to pull away there at the very end. So those type of things happen in football, but the Texans' defense is not disappointed. It's kind of been more so the offense. Like, as far as I'm concerned, any offense that still has an able-bodied Andre Johnson and a rising DeAndre Hopkins and a powerful Arian Foster and then a tough defense to back them up should not be 4-5. And yet there they are, including 2-2 at home. So when you have the Indianapolis Colts in your division, you're probably not going to be taking away that division title. So the Texans can still turn it around. It's not the end of the world, but they should probably start making wild card plans. On the other side, also in the AFC, the Chargers and the Dolphins facing off in Miami. Great place, from what my understanding, a great place to visit. Not as fun of a place to live. A lot of weird stuff that happens there in Miami. And the Chargers, they learned that. Great place to visit. Not a great place to work, as they get worked by the home team 37-0. Like nothing. I remember I was in a car. I was dropping off a friend at the L station after I had gotten out of church yesterday, and the game had just ended. I was dropping off two friends, and the game had just ended. It was on Westwood 1 here in Chicago on a WSCR 670, and they were just wrapping up the game, and they were like, the final score from Miami, 37-0. And my friends are like, oh my goodness, 37-0. And I'm like, yeah, 37-0. The Chargers got rolled on. And one of the friends was like, in all of the game, they couldn't even get a field goal. They couldn't even, get a touchdown. I was like, nope, not even in garbage time. And yeah, the Chargers offense just completely total power outage. I guess they were too far for reception, and they just couldn't connect in terms of offense. And this was an offense that was doing so well over the past couple of weeks, but the Chargers, with the loss, now fall to 5-4, and they have now lost 3 straight games. But before that, they reeled off 5 straight. They were looking to be just the class of the AFC West, and then this happens. They lose to 2 division opponents, and then heading into the bye week, they were in Miami. I'm guessing that's where a lot of Chargers, that's where their minds were, I guess. Because I'm pretty sure that there was probably a decent amount of those players that was like, oh, no, you guys are catching the flight? No, you guys go ahead. I'll be back next week. I'll be back in San Diego next week. And that must be quite the life to be a professional football player playing a sport you love in San Diego and then getting to go to places like Miami. Probably a very good life, but not when you get blown out 37-0. Like I had been saying over the past couple of weeks, because I finally have opened my eyes to it. I now see the light that there is not a lot of defense in football these days. Apparently enough on the Dolphins side, but in general, not a lot of defense. These scores, they're getting up there. Like at this point, who needs arena football? Am I right? At least that's what I think, because they got rid of the Chicago Rush. Once they bring them back, I'll be riding for arena football harder than anybody else, but not now. A lot of high scores going on, and now it's starting to seep into the NFL. And so we're getting 51-point games like last week. We're getting 43-point games from the Steelers. We're getting 37-point games from the Dolphins. It's really been unbelievable. And it was a team effort, as with anything in football. Ryan Tannehill, who's been very he's by all accounts a very inconsistent quarterback. He's hit his stride as of late. He went 24 for 34 with 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks. Just a beautiful game there for Ryan Tannehill, and he earned himself some time off in the end as Matt Moore came in finally and spelled him, so they didn't need him anymore. And just to continue that, my thought from earlier about backup quarterbacks, the Chargers Either they're heading into the bye week riding high on a huge winning streak, or they're crashing and burning and they have landed on the bye week in a smoldering heap. And there's just a lot of questions about what's going to happen with those teams as opposed to the teams that are doing well. And you just wonder how much longer can they keep the pace going as far as their fortunes. So the Chargers seem to need to be charged. I don't know. I had to work on that joke on the fly, but you know what I mean. The Chargers aren't doing well. They need to improve. One team that has done well out in the West, over in the NFC, the Arizona Cardinals, 7-1, and they get the 28-17 win over the Dallas Cowboys. How about those Cowboys, huh? They went on a 6-game winning streak, and they were 6-1 coming out of the Giants game. And people were wondering, could this team win the NFC East? And the answer is still yes, considering how the rest of the NFC East is set up. But they have fallen on hard times here. They fall to Washington in a very hard-fought game in overtime. But then they face the Arizona Cardinals, and they lose that as well. So now it's 2 straight. Maybe the Cowboys will get a little pick-me-up. They're at Jacksonville technically at Jacksonville, but that one's going to be in London. That'll be this coming Sunday. So maybe that'll be a pick-me-up heading into their bye week in Week 11. There's still hope for the Cowboys, but if you aren't a Cowboys fan, which apparently is every other fan base, but if you look at the numbers, the Cowboys are the most popular team in the country, so it's kind of weird how that works out. If you're not a fan of them, then you're probably rejoicing right now. Rejoice while you can, because they have the Jaguars in London. They have a bye week, and they have the Giants after that. So they might get back to some W's fairly soon. They have a quarterback problem. That much is true. You thought that after seeing what happened in the Washington game that Brandon Weeden would serve as a good replacement while Tony Romo was out. I mean, he was responsible for 10 of the Cowboys' points, but then they played this game against a very tough Arizona defense, and Weeden does not do well at all. 18 for 33, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, sacked once. That ends up with a quarterback rating of a whopping 55.5. And then you have DeMarco Murray, whose 100-yard rushing streak ends at 8 games, as he only came up with 79. So really, I think that is to say that it seems the Cardinals are for real. You look at the teams that they have faced, and I say that with a little hesitancy because the teams that they have faced have been, hot and cold over the course of the season. You have Dallas, who's on their losing streak. You have Philadelphia, who's been so-so. You have San Diego, who's cratered as of late. You have San Francisco, who's having their issues, but Arizona's leapfrogging them in the division, so division wins are always important. Arizona will have another division game this Sunday where they will be hosting St. Louis, but for the most part, the Cardinals, especially their rushing defense, has been phenomenal. Bruce Arians has had this team playing out of their mind, and their schedule is fairly soft compared to other stronger teams. So maybe
Like what? We're fully connected. There's nothing wrong.
Lost connection there temporarily. Raymond Simms Show on the Coliseum Sports Network. I was talking about the Arizona Cardinals and Bruce Arians, who's been coaching this team very well. It's very rough to see Bruce Arians doing well because he did so well coaching in Indianapolis, and then he was considered for the Chicago job, which he was passed over by Mark Trestman, and now he's in Arizona, and he's doing well, and yeah. My cynicism is back. I still have on my cynicism hat, my White Sox knit cap. I know the connection had gone out, and the internet has been acting very weird here as of late in this particular neighborhood. I don't understand what it is really, but I don't know if maybe it's just some wires outside rusting or whatever. We're gonna have to call somebody to come in. But other than that, just weird happenings there as far as the internet is concerned. But we'll just finish up the show here on the back end. As I was saying before, Cardinals are doing well. The Cowboys are in rough shape, but they should probably turn it around, at least heading into their bye week. And really, just like I always say, we'll have to find out moving forward. Some basketball talk on the other side. No college football today. You're listening to the Raymond Simms Show on the Coliseum Sports Network. Raymond Simms Show here on the Coliseum Sports Network. I saw that the connection actually went out during the break again. Yeah, internet stuff is weird. I'm sure people with apartments probably feel the pain. I remember we used to live in an apartment in the city of Chicago for a little while, and there was one time where it was just this moment in time where the internet was acting very slow. It was creeping, and my mother and I did not understand what the problem was. So we got to the bottom of it. We called somebody in. That was our sleuthing. Was we investigated our way to the phone, and we dialed the number, and we called the cable operator, and they came in. So that's how you get stuff done. That's how you figure things out. You call somebody else to do it. But they followed the line, and they saw that somebody had split our internet line, so they were stealing our internet. So that's fun. But that was handled, of course. I don't think that's the case now, unless somebody really wants to get up on these poles out here, the power lines that I can see outside of the studios. I feel like that's a very risky proposition as opposed to, living in an apartment building. You can just go to the fuse box, slam a splitter on it, and call it a day. In this case, that's some crazy stuff to go through just to get some internet. I mean, just sign up with WoW or AT&T Universe or something. Just, don't hurt yourself. Anyways, I don't think that's the problem. I think it's probably whatever the connection is for Xfinity in this particular area. That's what I'm blaming it on now, but I'll be getting to the bottom of that moving forward. I will say, though, that having internet that is not as reliable makes it hard for me to get to stream the League Pass preview that I have until tomorrow. I was very excited about the NBA League Pass preview because it's always fun. Everybody loves it because you get to watch the out-of-market games for free, and free stuff is fun. But I haven't League Pass broadband. That's the big thing for me. I love on-demand sports I can just watch on my laptop, but I don't. But my problem with it, or my issue as far as on-demand stuff on my computer, is that I don't watch it nearly enough as I make myself think I do. So I can sit here and get all excited about, for instance, WNBA Live Access, which I'm always so stoked about every year because it's only a flat fee of $12, and they'll probably raise it this year just for the sake of inflation. But it's still cheap, relatively cheap, right, compared to the rest of the major sports deals. Your NBA League Pass, I mean, heck, that costs $100, $100-something. MLB.TV, oh man, that's out the window. NFL, they cost a lot as well. I think even MLS is a little on the steep side. WNBA, $12 for all the games, all of them, and yet that's $204. That's 204 teams. I mean, 204 games for $12, and yet I only watched about 4 or 5 from the beginning of the season, and I'm still making myself think, should I go back and look at those? Because there's at some point during the off season where the WNBA just wipes the slate clean and you can't watch the games anymore. I want to go back and get my money's worth because it was $12, but I can't. And that's the same thing that happens, for instance, with Watch ESPN, where there's so many games and they just have so much stuff, and it's great on its face that it's like, hey, if I miss the Utah-Arizona State game, that was on Fox, so that's a bad example. But, Washington, UCLA. I missed most of that game. I caught a little glimpse of it on Saturday, but I can go back and watch it. The thing is, I never go back and watch it, so it's kind of defeats the purpose of having on-demand abilities. So all that to say, that's the same thing happening here with the League Pass preview. So many games that I could go back and watch. I could go overanalyze the Bulls' narrow win over the Minnesota Timberwolves. I could go back and just see how truly bad the 76ers are heading into the season, or how really bad the Lakers is. I'll actually have more fun with that if I were to do that. Watching some of the rookies like Jabari and Andrew Wiggins, see how they're doing. All the stuff that they advertise that you can do with NBA League Pass. But it's not in my budget, so I'm up against the time here as far as me being able to take advantage of just watching full uninterrupted games. But here's the cheap option. You can take this. If you have the patience and you have a good ad blocker, you can go to NBA.com/stats, where they have all videos of all the different plays that happened, and they do. I'm glad the NBA does this, and the reason they do is so that the box score comes to life, so to speak. If a player goes 7 for 11, you can make your assumptions about that, but it's like, how did they come to that 7-11 for 11? Did they, have to attack the basket a lot? Were they shooting from outside? Were they shooting long twos? Those are very inefficient shots. Were they, stuff like that? Or you can click the 7 made field goals and you can see those, or you can see the 11 attempts, so you see the misses. Like, what happened? Where was he in traffic and he just couldn't get it off? Was he fouled? Did he draw contact? Or you can do that with the other stats. It's very amazing, very awesome. But then they also, as well as doing it for the box score, they group it into the play-by-play so you can see the game in order. And, you can go to each video and see, like, if it says that Noah Vonleh got a rebound, you can go and see that rebound, see what happened in that game and how Noah Vonleh got the rebound, so that it's not just a Noah Vonleh rebound, it's how did Vonleh create space? Was he able to do it, or did he have to chase down a long rebound? Did he use his speed to get that rebound to out-hustle the rest of the players? Stuff like that. It's very awesome, and it's a very free, albeit complicated way to watch all the NBA games that you want. Because what you'll have to do is click each play, pay attention to the play, so that you're not clicking the exact net. Because when you click on the video, it tends to have the whole possession. So you don't want to be clicking like missed shot by this player, then you click the video for rebound by this player, and it's pretty much the same play happening. So you got to pay attention to the game, and you click on each video, and you just go down the line until you watch the whole game. You can make your opinion. And the great thing is that you can stop it whenever you want. You can go back, and you can see the same play. And the reason that I say that it's that you need a good ad blocker for it is because not that I'm necessarily a fan of blocking ads. Usually I only block ads when I get annoyed by the ads, which is rarely. But you get an ad blocker because every video is going to be preceded by an ad, and that's really going to take into your time when you got 15 and 30-second ads and you're trying to watch a whole game on the cheap here. You get what I'm saying? So that's an idea. Maybe not what the NBA intended when they put videos in the box scores. Probably one that they saw coming and probably don't care, because they're probably like, what schlub is going to be impatient enough or cheap enough to actually sit here and click through all of these videos? Oh, NBA, you don't know Raymond Anthony Simms, my friend. You don't know. I'm going to cut the show short here, but be sure to join me tomorrow, 11 to 1 Eastern, 10 to noon in Chicago, and 8 to 10 out on the West Coast. And if you're in Albuquerque or Denver, from 9 to 11. See, I didn't forget about you. I love you, Mountain Time Zone. I thank you guys for watching. Be sure to tune in next time live at Spreaker.com. If you missed anything here, head over to, you can stay here and check it out on Spreaker.com. Once it's archived, you can head over to Coliseum Sports Network, which is on youtube.com/user/Coliseum Sportsnet. Follow me on Twitter. Check me out on Facebook and like my page. And you can add me on Tumblr at your own risk. All of those are Simms Coliseum. Have a wonderful day, everybody. This has been the Raymond Simms Show on the Coliseum Sports Network. I won.